Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I just want to start by saying go blue.
Well, Chris, I'm going to play the clip.
Does anyone ever say to you, sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays?
I got a freaking case of the Mondays, bro.
I have a rough case of the Mondays.
I have a rock hard case of the Mondays. Rock hard case of Mondays right now, dude.
Well, I hate to break it to you. Hate to break it to you, Willis, but we are going to revisit it quite a bit. Or Wills, is that what it is?
Let's look at the Wills. Yeah, I went back and watched our post game, and I actually felt a little slappy. I felt more slappy than I need to. But that's
what does that mean? You felt more slappy?
I was reacting way too much as a fan versus like as an objective reporter covering the game.
That's okay. You know what? People might be surprised to know there's that side of you too.
I do think it's okay on some levels, but I mean, I was watching it and I was trying to find like a good minute to 2 to 3 minute chunk that I could put up where me and you are just talking about it, not looking like we might burst into tears, and it was hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, that might not be the best look in the world. I don't know, whatever, but it's not typical, but it goes to show kind of where things are. Year 7, another loss like that. And it's like, damn it, man. Like, the reason why we're going to get into this in just a minute, our first segment, talking about our predictions and our specific predictions and our score prediction to kind of talk about it. And it's the reason why on Wednesday, when I wrote up something for the Michigan State site, I picked Michigan State. I was honestly thinking all the things I said, and it didn't come to fruition exactly like I thought. I was like, well, Peyton Thorne's the better quarterback. Well, he wasn't on Saturday. And Kenneth Walker and the running backs from Michigan is going to be like a push. That didn't happen either. So I wasn't exactly right in why I thought things were going to happen. But at the end of the day, my back and forth in my head about how the game would end up played out on the field. I mean, Michigan's got the lead. Michigan State battles back. Michigan gets another lead. Michigan State battles back. And then the Spartans win. So I feel okay with why I was so conflicted because it played out that way. But I don't know, man. I just found myself after the game was over just really being pretty deflated and being surprised that it had that kind of effect on me. Because I feel like during the middle of the week, I was like, I know it's going to happen. It happened. This is what happens. But then we talked about why I switched my pick on Friday, and I was like, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan cannot lose this game. They cannot. It can't happen. And then it did. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at on a Monday. I don't know where you are.
Well, I think you know why it felt so bad is because, we've spent weeks sort of, butting heads with a lot of the people, like a lot of the fans that we interact with. And that, the response has been, even though we had concerns going into East Lansing that this team is different, this time is different, that everything is different, the energy, the culture, it's not going to be the same thing. Like I remember even saying like, I felt deep down that Michigan State was going to win this game. And I was watching the comments come in and you're wrong. It's different. You know what I mean? You could see it. Yeah. So as somebody in our position, you feel like you've got one foot in reality, but then you hear all of these people kind of hammering the point home that it's different, and you can't help but sort of, you love the team. You want to believe that it's true. And I think going into Saturday, I think you and I both made that mistake a little bit is we went with the Wolverines because we just thought that it had to be done. They were going to have to get the win. And I think that was the fan inside of us. And I remember specifically, I probably won't forget this conversation moving forward, just in terms of like our professional career together. But we walked out of Michigan Stadium after that Northwestern game, and we immediately talked about Michigan State. And I looked at you and I said, I think Michigan State's going to win, but I'm going to pick Michigan. And you said, that's not what we're about. And
we did.
And we did, and we did it, and now we
know.
look like a bunch of clowns because we gave in to the riffraff out there who said this time was different. And look, I'm not going to take anything away from what Michigan did. Obviously, they were in the game; it wasn't a blowout. But we're going to get into what transpired in that game, and at the end of the day, we'll dissect it. We'll do the autopsy on it. But at the end of the day, it's another loss. It's another failure. And I was telling Brandon this before we hopped on. J.J. McCarthy was 11 years old when Jim Harbaugh was hired at the University of Michigan. 11 or 12. I'm not sure on the math, but you did 11. So
Just shy of his 12th birthday.
Just shy of his 12th birthday. So when I see people that say things are in the right direction, you can't change course now. Guys, it has been a long time. We are getting close to a decade. We'll talk about it throughout the show, but man, today on Monday, I feel bad. I feel gloomy, but you know who I feel really bad for? I feel bad for the fans that have just been around for a long time. Like, I know there's this sense that we're supposed to rally around this team and support these kids, and I get all that. But what about the fans that have been here for the last 2 decades, just hoping to see something? And time again, they walk away with heartbreak like this. So I feel for the fans. I feel for myself. It's a shitty place to be, but at the end of the day, Michigan's still number 9 in the country. And depending on who you talk to, a lot of things are in front of them.
Don't do it, Chris. Don't do that.
I'm not doing it.
No, we're gonna get into that. So a couple housekeeping things real quick. One, if you're talking about the refs making them lose the game, leave the pod, go away. I got no time for you.
Hold on. Wait, hold up. I will say there was some shitty officiating in that game. Did not cost Michigan the game.
Fine. Welcome to football. Happens
There you
every
go.
single week for every game that's ever been played in the history of the sport. Michigan was up 16 in the second half with about 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Leave. If you think the refs cost them the game, leave. Second thing, the next person that comes to me and says, so one game, one loss, and you're ready to just blow it up. No. You're not paying attention for 7 years. If you think this was because of one game, you can leave. Third and final thing that I've had a big problem with is we'll wait. I'm going to wait on the third one. I'm going to wait on the third one because it's going to be something that comes up for sure during burning questions and for sure, maybe even during our predictions right now. We'll get into that. In a minute. But the first things first, we're going to talk about the predictions that we had. We had some specific ones, and actually I did all right here, and our score number was off, but we picked. So on Wednesday, when I wrote up my prediction for the Michigan State site, I said 24-20 Michigan State. On Friday, when I rewrote it and reconfigured it for Wolverine Digest, I said 24-20 Michigan. Chris also had 24-20 Michigan. We had the same score we do this quite a bit. We're usually pretty close. This one was exact, and it ended up being a 4-point game, but in the other direction. Michigan State wins 37-33. I guess I don't know how much time we need to spend on that, but I'm a little surprised the score got as high as it did because A, I didn't think that Michigan would give up that many points to Michigan State, and B, I didn't think Michigan would be able to throw for damn near 400 yards like they did and move it up and down the field. Yes, they settled for a lot of field goals, but there was a lot of offense in this one.
A lot of offense, and what happened really worried me. I mean, I the way the game went was kind of how I thought it was going to go, where Michigan looked like they would be in control early. Michigan State would rally late, and then we would find ourselves in a game late, and we were. And then you're right. When the clock hits 0 and you go back and you look at all of those red zone opportunities where Michigan settled with a field goal, this is another sticking point with Michigan, is the lack of creativity, the lack of a killer instinct of putting the ball in the end zone. We talked about this over the weekend. Michigan had their foot on the throat of Michigan State. They had an opportunity to go up, I think 17-0. They had opportunities to put a good amount of space between themselves and the Spartans, and that killer instinct just wasn't there. So settling for field goals and thinking that you're just going to sort of wear the other team down, they didn't wear Michigan State down. And in fact, Kenneth Walker got stronger as the game went on, and I don't think anybody expected the Michigan defense to shit the bed quite the way they did. But Kenneth Walker had himself a game. Yes, he's a really good running back, but I don't know that he's gone off on any team like that throughout maybe Northwestern at the beginning. That was a hell of a performance against a defense like that.
Yeah, not
Arguably the best defender in the country, the best defensive end in Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, impressive.
Yeah. Before we get into the predictions, I'll put this up there. I'll take full blame. I did have a troll article ready for Mel Tucker for Michigan to win. I apologize. Had a huge impact on the game. No, obviously Jesse's laughing it off too. But look, no, like I had some people come at me after the game and were like, "Oh, I bet you had that Harbaugh article queued up." Do people not know how it works? Like you genuinely write an article ahead of time so that way when the clock hits 0, you can push it. We did not do that. I had a Michigan winning article ready to go, and for the 20 minutes after the game ended, I had to scrap something else together because they didn't get it done. So that was a weird thing. Like I've been covering. Look, I've written 200 recruiting articles before the recruiting news happens. Like you have to be ready for what's potentially coming because timeliness is pretty important in this industry in a lot of instances. So that was a weird thing.
I mean, they'll never question you if you come out with an article about the win when the clock hits 0. It's only when the loss takes place, and we know what we're doing.
My job, bro. Like I'm pulling Jesse's comment there to be funny. But that's how it works. You write an article ahead of time. Most of it you go, but that's why if you've ever seen an article that I published with X's in there instead of the stat numbers, that's why, because you have the article written for the most part, and then you plug the numbers in after the game is over. Anyway, I just wanted to get that out the way. I thought Jesse's comment was funny, and it made me think of that. All right, here were my 5 predictions before the game started. Chris will reflect on them a little bit and kind of give our thoughts and our takes. I said Eric All will score a touchdown. He didn't. He probably should have. Would have been nice to punch it into the big tight end who had 10 catches for 98 yards in the game in the red zone instead of settling for 3 field goals. I think we're close enough to maybe where you start looking for a tight end. Fantastic game by Eric All. He's been coming on. He's becoming more of a part of the offense. 10 catches, 98 yards, but no score.
Solid afternoon, but again, like 1 touchdown is the difference. He was having a hell of a game. I find it hard to believe you can't get the ball to him somewhere in the red zone when Michigan had several opportunities to do so. But again, I don't want to keep harping on it over and over. He had a hell of a game. He should have found a way in the end zone at least once, I would say, and that would have been the difference. Yeah,
could have been the difference. Second one I said, wow, Cade McNamara will throw for more than 200 yards. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, right? Damn near double.
Kudos. I mean, hey, we have been on this kid for a bulk of the season, the majority of the season, questioning whether or not he's got that certain something. And look, he looked really good on Saturday. Saturday was not a perfect performance by any stretch by Cade McNamara, but he looked really good, and he played good enough to keep Michigan in the game. It was a career day for McNamara. I give him all the credit in the world. I'm not taking anything away from his performance. He played good enough for Michigan to win that football game. I'm bummed for him that, on a game like that and guys like Andrell Anthony and performances like that they weren't able to come through. I mean, obviously you want to get the win for the program, but those guys really came out and had themselves a day, and you would have liked to have seen it pay off.
He missed a couple, dude.
He did.
A couple. He overthrew Andrell on a walk-in touchdown.
Sainer still.
Yeah, he missed a couple, dude. I mean, he was really good for a lot of the day. But I mean, if I ask you straight up, was he? You just said it, and I think you're trying to give some props because he did play well. But did he play well enough for Michigan to win?
I think he did. I think the coaching staff didn't coach well enough for Michigan to win. I think Cade McNamara played good enough football for the Michigan Wolverines to win on Saturday. I think Jim Harbaugh and this coaching staff failed those kids.
If you're up 16 in the second half, it's hard to say that the quarterback wasn't good enough. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that, honestly, there's probably like 6, 8, 10 things you could be like this much better, and it's a win. Like, one more touchdown instead of a field goal in the red zone, one connection on one of those overthrows, one get to the quarterback a little bit earlier, one better timing pass, better timing on the throw.
And I think that's where people, when they're fixated on the way the game was called and the refereeing, like you're looking at the wrong things. Like, yes, those things hurt, but look at all the instances that were in Michigan's control. Those passes that were a little bit too deep, the fumbles, the turnovers, the self-inflicted wounds. Those are the things you got to look at and say, that's what Michigan can control. Look, as much as you hate the referees and as much as you think they may have been, there may have been a bag pass to the referee group from Mel Tucker's crew, it doesn't matter. Michigan can't control that. They can control where they put the ball. They can control the handoffs. They can control those things. So they've got to start to control what they can control. You can't worry about things like the way the game's being called. I mean, if that's what you're hanging your hat on to get a W in a tight game, then you've already lost.
Two great points right here that are two more of those little, just do one of these tiny things. Stop a couple fourth downs. The long pass to Naylor on fourth down and another long one down to the corner pylon. I can't remember who caught it, but a phenomenal throw by Peyton Thorne. Stop those fourth downs. Different game. And then, dude, where is it? Can we get the substitution thing under control? Dude, if that happens once, maybe twice, all right. It happened like 4 or 5 times into the second half.
And you know what? Mel Tucker and that crew knew that Michigan was struggling. They knew. And that's coaching. Michigan got caught with their pants down multiple times because Mel Tucker could see what was going on. That was a matter of, that wasn't a talent thing. That wasn't a recruiting thing. That's the two groups on the sidelines calling the shots. That's what that is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many stars are next to your name if your coach is telling you to run out on the field and send someone out and you only got 2 seconds to do it. Like, come on, man. All right. Third one I said, and this is kind of crazy, actually, considering the day that Kenneth Walker did, but both teams will be held under the rushing average. They were. Both teams were held under their rushing average on the day. Michigan wasn't even close. And I literally think Michigan State was like 2 yards below or something. I mean, they were right at their number. I think they averaged 199 and 0.7 and they finished with like 197 or something. I mean, it was right there, but technically they were both under the rushing total. I don't really know if that's surprising because we both thought like the rush defenses were pretty good in both directions. I think you thought, if I'm remembering correctly, you thought Michigan would have a lot more success running the ball than they did. And Kenneth Walker was just incredible.
Right. I certainly did. I thought that there was going to be the same formula we saw with Michigan State and Indiana, where Michigan was going to bottle up Kenneth Walker. They were going to make Peyton Thorne and those wide receivers have to, win the game. And I was worried about our corners, but it turns out, I mean, we knew Kenneth Walker was going to run the ball, right? We knew he was a good running back, and it just seemed like it didn't matter. So, yeah, I'm surprised, like I said at the beginning, I'm really surprised that the Michigan defense struggled against the Michigan State rushing attack as much as they did. I thought that there was a blueprint there to contain Walker. And whether or not they had the right blueprint or not, it didn't matter because Walker got to the end zone 5 damn times. And probably, I don't know, he might win the Heisman Trophy. Like, is there anybody that looks head and shoulders better above him right now?
Not for an undefeated team.
It's insane.
Not for an undefeated team. Yeah, he's going to be, unless he just falls off, I'll be shocked if he's not at least in New York.
He'll be in New York for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll win it, but yeah, well, I mean, he was phenomenal. He was outstanding. Speaking of, he held up his end of the bargain on this one. I thought that Michigan State would have at least 2 50-yard plays. They only had one. Kenneth Walker's 58-yard touchdown run. Jalen Naylor had a 40-yard catch, so came up a little short. But, Michigan State was averaging somewhere between 1 and 2 and in some cases 3 big explosive plays in a game. And I guess technically they didn't get that. I don't know. When you let a running back run for 5 touchdowns, it doesn't really matter how long they are, honestly. Right. That's pretty explosive. So, but I thought 2 50-yard plays, technically that didn't happen, but I don't know. It didn't really matter because they kind of got whatever they wanted.
Yeah. And in the press box watching it, it felt like when you got deep into that second half, I was nervous every time Michigan State had the ball because I know they were going to go to Kenneth Walker. And oddly enough, they kind of went away from him a couple times and had to give the ball back to Michigan. But Michigan had no answer for him all afternoon. What happened with Michigan State and Kenneth Walker was what I thought was going to happen with Michigan and Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins.
Yeah. And last but not least, this one held up as well. And, man, I cashed it early. Michigan will force at least 2 turnovers. They picked Peyton Thorne off twice in the first quarter. Michigan ended up turning it over twice as well. Obviously, the very, very costly fumble and then the interception on, kind of at a depth. I was called out for saying that Michigan won the turnover battle. Technically, they did not. It was 2-2. But the one to end the game with a minute left was a desperation thing. No timeouts. You have to move it down the field.
Right.
And Brantley made an incredible play with a one-handed interception. So, yeah, technically they both had 2 turnovers, but for Michigan State's to happen when they did and bounce back from it and win that game, I think kind of speaks volumes to what they did in preparation and how their mental makeup is and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't know. The turnover thing, 2-2, but Michigan got them early. Michigan State got them late when they absolutely had to have them. I don't know. I cashed the prediction, but you could kind of go back and forth on which turnovers were the bigger deal. Obviously, Michigan loses, so you say theirs. But damn, dude, if they would have just taken care of business in a couple other ways, you could easily be saying that Michigan State's turnovers.
Do you know? Did they score off of those turnovers on the following drive? Did it lead to points? Did it lead to anything?
Michigan,
yeah.
I would guess at least. Yeah, they scored. I think did Brad Robbins have a punt?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. I'm so dejected about the other things. I'm not like who gives a shit whether or not he punted? Like I get that we need to figure it out, but
he punted twice. So apparently, yeah, there's a chance, I guess, that when they forced those turnovers, they didn't get points for sure. But I mean
they were in the backfield. They were doing. They were. That's the thing. Like the defense really fell apart when it came, to Kenneth Walker, but they were getting to Peyton Thorne. That strip sack by Ojabo. I know it got turned over, but they were getting in the backfield, and obviously Thorne had a bit of a rough day, so that wasn't the issue. And I think, yeah, when you get 2 turnovers in a game like that, you think that's going to be good enough to get you the W. And we were saying that in the first half. We again. Both articles queued up about Michigan winning the game. And that was a big reason why Michigan was creating turnovers. And it was like, you know what? They're going to do it. They're going to win this damn game. And then sure enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, when they were up 16 in the third quarter in the second half, I remember I looked right at you and said, I'm going to get to publish this damn article about Tuck Bumming.
Dude, I was talking about the infographic. I'm like, I can't wait to see the college football rankings come out, and Michigan's
in the playoff.
Michigan's big block M is going to be in the playoff rankings, and it was going to be so beautiful to have this time of year, and it's finally happening. It's different. I was wrong. I'm an asshole. I might be an asshole, but I wasn't wrong.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move into it. Here we go. A lot of people like it. I don't know if it's
this fucking guy.
I don't know if it's everybody's favorite segment.
This fucking guy.
You got one? I
do have a TFG of the week.
Is yours negative or positive? Mine's a positive one, actually.
Mine is a negative.
Right.
And I'm not going to listen.
Do we want to start on a good note or a bad note?
Let's end it on a good one.
Okay.
Let's end it on a good one.
You can go first.
This fucking guy.
I'm not going to say this man's name specifically, but I'm going to say there are many like him. So this guy, this person exists, right? Doing. You understand? Mm-hmm. I'm going to read this word for word. Okay. This is what this gentleman has to say. I'm a keep Harbaugh guy for the exact reasons you lay out. I would keep him on for a few more years to see if he can get over the hump. If he doesn't, Mike Hart should be our next head coach. Please, for the love of God, it does not take a few more years to get over the hump. We've been doing this for 7. If it hasn't changed in 7, the idea that it will change in the next 3 is ridiculous. Oh, shit. See, look, I'm losing my computer here. It's no different. You had a guy over the weekend give you a futuristic record that Jim Harbaugh was going to produce in the future. Listen, I want people to hear this out there. Somebody came at Brandon over the weekend.
I'm going to take the music down. This is wild.
So somebody comes at Brandon over the weekend about Jim Harbaugh's record against Mel Tucker and Michigan State, whatever. His argument, his counter argument to Brandon's, the record, the actual record not being good enough is that if Jim Harbaugh plays Mel Tucker 5 more times, he'll win 3 out of the next 5.
No,
what the hell are you? Was that wrong?
Slightly. He was talking about these 2 exact teams right now.
Fine. Okay. These 2 exact teams.
Yes.
Sure. These 2 exact teams. If they play 5 more times, Michigan would win 3 of those games. What are you basing that off of? We have actual data in front of us, not make-believe numbers. Actual data. So when you want to give Jim Harbaugh credit for imaginary wins in the future that haven't even happened yet, we've got a big problem. So to everybody who does that, you are my TFG of the week, and you are my TFG forever. Stop doing that. Stop being a weirdo fan.
When I told you, when I told you about that comment, and you said, so now we're giving Jim Harbaugh credit for imaginary victories in a fictional series that was created in someone's head. I was
why only give him 3 of the next 5 wins? Why aren't you just give him 5? You're gonna pick 2 wins? What do you or 3 or 2 losses? What are you, some kind of hater? I don't get it.
It was so wild.
And then here we go. You've got Dan Hammer in the comments, who says, why do we keep moving the goalposts on Jim Harbaugh? Where have they been moved to? As far as I knew, Michigan was always beat Ohio State, get to the Big Ten championship, beat your rivals, beat Michigan State. Isn't what the goalpost has always been at Michigan? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't know if people. I know we're certainly not moving the goalposts. I'm not sure if that was directed at. I think he's on our side. I think he's saying like, why?
Okay. If that's the case, I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I think he's on our side. I think he's agreeing with what we're saying. Like, why?
Okay.
Why is it? Oh, another. Let's move it here. Let's move it there. Let's do it.
Dan, if that was the case, I apologize.
I mean, he can clarify. I'm not positive.
Please do. I think I blacked out there for a minute. Where are we?
When somebody came at me and said, like, if these 2 teams played 5 more times, Michigan would win 3 of them. I was like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard for an argument in my life. Like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, what is this?
He's already 3-0 in the future. It's not my fault you can't see that.
There you go, Danny Hamer.
You know what, Danny Hamer? Hey, man, you know what? You might have a hat coming your way. My bad, man.
All right, my positive TFG. We said we would close it on a good note. It's Kenneth Walker. I mean, good God, dude. I knew he was a good back. I thought you had to respect the hell out of him coming in. This fucking guy, 5 scores, bro. I mean, like, can you imagine the shit talking bonanza people would be going on if Blake Corum went in there and ran for 5 touchdowns?
I would have started talking shit after the game, and I would still be talking shit. I would have never stopped.
Unbelievable performance. 23 carries, $197, 5 touchdowns, and I mean, basically willed Michigan State to a win because Peyton Thorne did not have a good day. Naylor got hurt, had a cast on his hand for a big part of the second half, and they still got a win. And he was untackleable, if that's a word. I mean, the dude was he'd get bottled up, he'd bounce, he'd cut, he'd put his foot in the ground.
He is shifty. He's hard to bring down. Like even when they were stopping him close at the line, you could tell it was taking a load to bring him down. That's a grown ass man.
There he is. He's here.
Who's that?
He's here.
Oh my God, is that him?
He's here. I recognize the name because
Jonathan, I got to tell you, your ears must have been ringing this weekend because we spent a bunch of time talking about your talking points. So basing the 3 on the stat lines, not an imagine. Okay, but fine. The stat lines are what? Guess what? Those same stat lines led to a loss. A loss.
There's one real big and important stat line you're forgetting, Jonathan. It's called the score. That's the big one.
That's how they keep records, is the final score. Like if you win or lose, like who gives a shit whether or not they dominated the statistics? I don't care. Do you feel good about that? Does that make you feel better? I don't feel better about that. I feel worse. I feel worse that we clearly played better football and still managed to lose the game.
If they played 5 more times, Michigan probably would win 3. All right. Moving on to a quick little segment about Pro Football Focus real fast. I'm not going to do you like I did last week where you guess horribly all over the board and you can't
don't.
One guy. We're not going to do 3. We're just going to do 1. We're going to see if you can figure out who might be at the top of these lists based on what we watched and what we saw, because I think there's a couple of interesting things here. And then, I don't want to, I'm not going to pull these things out to call out some people who didn't play as well. But I think there's some obvious shortcomings in the game that are worth discussing. And, it is what it is. I mean, it's like, Jim Harbaugh, we can get into this real quick because a lot of people have been bringing this up in the comments. Jim Harbaugh flat out said today that the fumble was on Blake Corum. And like, dude, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Blake Corum is a competitive, proud, hardworking, Division I, probably future NFL running back. If you can't go to him in the film room and say, you messed up, then
then you don't have the right guys.
There's probably an F word in there too, or 3. Like, guys, that's not throwing a player under the bus. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding? We all watched it. There was a fumble. Somebody did it. What the hell is what is the throwing under the Jim Harbaugh was very directly asked about the fumble, why it happened. Was it the mesh point? Was it a read? Was it a give? Was it a keep? Was it JJ? Was it Blake? And he answered the question. I'm so happy that he did that.
But you can see what Cody is saying. You do it in the film room, but not in the media. I have a question. Guys like us in the media are always asking, like, for just some honesty, like some real talk from these people. What is wrong with saying what actually happened? Like, if people are questioning, we obviously all saw that there was a fumble. We knew that there was a mistake. Why is it a bad thing for Jim Harbaugh to say, actually, that mistake was on Blake Corum? I have no problem with that. And I guarantee you, I don't know Blake Corum very well. I don't know him on a personal level at all. But I think I know him well enough to know that he's the kind of guy that will take something like that, and it will fuel him to get better.
Not only that, Blake's dad may be in here. I'm not sure. He joins the show a lot. He comments when Blake's in here. So if he is, maybe he can weigh in. I guarantee 1,000%, if we brought Blake Corum on the show right now and asked him about that fumble, he'd say, I messed up, man. I gotta be better. Dude, this is Division I, big time, Big Ten football. Jim Harbaugh didn't go out there and trash anybody and say, like, he's the worst back we ever had. He's never going to see the field again. He just said, yo, that was the play. It was supposed to be Blake securing it a little bit better. He knew that he was getting the ball. Dude, that's amazing. He was open. He was honest, called it like it was. Everybody wanted to know.
Those are the things that we want to hear from Jim Harbaugh. It's when he stands up there and gives us a bunch of bullshit that everybody's like, this guy doesn't even have a clue. Like, you can't have it both ways. We asked Jim Harbaugh to stand up in front of us and tell us what went wrong. We asked that of him at the very least. So when he gives us the unvarnished truth, even though it might be a little bit harsh if some people take it that way, the truth is the truth. And I think it's the same thing, not just for the way he talked about that play, but it's the same thing for this program in general. You got to stop avoiding difficult topics just because they're difficult topics. Reality is reality. If that was Blake Corum's fault, then that was Blake Corum's fault. And if Jim Harbaugh isn't doing a good enough job at the University of Michigan, he's not doing a good enough job at the University of Michigan. It's okay to talk about these things in an open forum. You don't have to be afraid to talk about what everybody's already talking about behind closed doors anyway.
It's
right. It seems weird.
It's a results business, folks, and you can talk about the results, good or bad. That's it. It's not any deeper than that. So to talk about a fumble that was very costly, there's 2 people out there. One of them messed up. And that's another thing. It's part of the game. Like, you don't think any less of Blake Corum for that. It's not like he did it on purpose. Like, people fumble, dude. People throw interceptions. People drop touchdown passes.
He dropped the pass. Is it okay to say that he did it?
Dude, it's not that big of a deal. Like, this whole thing, I immediately went on Twitter after the game or after the press conference today and saw people using the, like, pushing someone under the bus gif. And I'm like, good God, dude, you're softer than baby shit, bro. If you think that's throwing someone under the bus, I don't want you on my team. I know that. You're going to go and cry about somebody talking about something that just happened. It just happened. Talk about it. Fix it. Don't do it again.
Well, and here's the other thing. Like, I've seen, and JJ's taken a lot of heat for that fumble. Obviously, Harbaugh, came out and said why that play happened the way it did, or at least from his perspective. But I do want to say there was a lot of people after that game, because obviously JJ made some mistakes, saying, well, where's all the people that wanted JJ to start now? Well, number one, JJ didn't start against Michigan State. The complaint about JJ, or at least from my side, has been the way that they've used him all year. It just didn't seem like there was any rhyme or reason. It felt like there was opportunities in the first part of the season to get him more meaningful reps. So you can't put it on JJ, the fact that he comes in at random times during a game and has to, like, do a read option or something. That's different than starting a game and playing a full series and getting into the flow of the game. So if you think JJ's performance this past Saturday is an indictment on him as a quarterback and who he is and whether or not he's ready to start, it just isn't.
And also, this whole JJ thing that people jumped on. See, that's why you don't. Where's all the JJ people now? That's why you don't play a freshman. Well, Jim Harbaugh today said that Blake Corum should have taken the snap, so you can That's the head coach telling you exactly what the play was and that it wasn't on the quarterback. But whatever. Even if you think he's covering for JJ or it wasn't on Blake or I saw the film and JJ pulled it out, whatever. We ended up finding out afterwards. I didn't know this, but I didn't know this because we are in the box. You can see the screens up there, but you can't hear what the broadcast is talking about. And I don't know if they really discussed this or not, but apparently Cade McNamara was in the injury tent. I didn't know that during the game at all. So if he's not available, if he's a little bit dinged up, he's a little bit hurt, and that's why JJ's in, then there is no discussion. You've got to have a quarterback in the game. And if McNamara wasn't 100% or couldn't go back in, then that's why. I mean, I reached out to someone who had their hands on all 22 film, and they confirmed that during that play, they did not see Cade McNamara standing anywhere on the sidelines. And if you know how the quarterback rotation thing has been going, when you're the starting quarterback and you pull JJ in the game for a second, Cade McNamara is right there. He's standing directly next to Jim Harbaugh. He even comes out onto the field usually to see if he's going to go back in. They get the play down, and then he steps back out or they swap back out. So apparently Cade was not available for that play. It's a moot point. It was a bad fumble. It just happened, dude. It's
but even that, like even if Cade was injured and that was why JJ was in there at that point, it doesn't change the fact that if you go back and you look over the last 8 weeks, we've spent a considerable amount of time just trying to make sense out of it. If you're burning the red shirt, the rotation just didn't seem to make sense. And it was the other way around too. There were certain times where McCarthy was in, it seemed like he was getting a rhythm and would be taken out. So you can kind of go back and forth on that a little bit.
And not to mention earlier in the game, and I tweeted something about this earlier in the game when JJ came in and threw that jump ball to Andrell Anthony, everybody was saying, like, just as many people are saying that's why you play the kid, because Cade McNamara checks that down to Schoonmaker and it's probably a 2 or 3 yard gain. Instead, JJ has chemistry with Andrell. He throws it up, lets this guy make a play. It's a touchdown. Dude, it's football. That's why you can't blame the refs. That's why you can't blame one holding call that didn't get called. That's why you can't blame a fumble that wasn't a fumble. That's why you can't blame one. It's a collective of 60 minutes of game action. There's a lot of shit that happens between those lines, between every set of whistles. And you cannot go to just one thing and say, like, this is what happens. This is why you don't do that. You've got to be able to look at everything from a 30,000-foot view and really understand what's going on there. All right, let's get into these couple pro football focus things. Again, it's not gospel, but when you're grading everybody, this is the grades that they came up with. Who do you think was the top graded Michigan offensive player against Michigan State on Saturday?
Cade McNamara.
Let me find this. They're getting real used to using this on Chris. Another guess, sir?
Let me see. Okay. I would probably go, if I had a serious guess, I'd go with Eric All. Solid game. Solid afternoon from Eric All.
Eric All was the highest graded offensive player on Michigan's team. Again, 10 catches, 98 yards, made some plays.
Anthony, how did Andrell Anthony not get that?
He was up there. He wasn't number 1, but he was up there. Andrell Anthony was number 3. Cade McNamara was number 2. So there you go. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good by you right there. Eric All, when you factor in how he does as a pass blocker and then, or as a run blocker, and then how he is as a receiver. Right. Great game. I mean, I haven't gone back and dissected the whole film play by play for Eric All, but he obviously had a really good game, and Jim Harbaugh was pretty full of praise when it came to talking about his junior tight end. Do you have a guess who might, well, I'll ask it this way, who might not have had their best day on Saturday? And again, not trying to call people out.
Offensively or defensively?
Offensively. Staying on offense for right now.
I'm going to say Blake Corum.
So Blake Corum actually wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought. Obviously, he made a couple plays that stuck out. The drop pass, if that fumble.
Look at James. Did James nominate his son?
Did he
I see he said Blake Corum. I don't know if that's what he was.
Papa Corum.
I don't know if that's what he meant.
Mr. Corum, if you're in here and you are listening, I see that you are in here. Type a very quick statement. I will throw it up on the screen. If that fumble was on Blake, how does he respond from something like that?
Well, how does he feel about what Jim said?
Or what Harbaugh said? Absolutely. Jim Harbaugh said, yeah, Blake needs to secure that. He knew he was getting the ball, whatever. I saw people I saw people saying that Jim Harbaugh's comments were gonna force Blake Corum into the transfer portal. I'm like, dude, are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't think
Anyway,
so.
it was actually a collective, dude. It was a collective. The offensive linemen, almost across the board, were at the bottom of Pro Football Focus's grading list.
That's
the offensive linemen. And actually, Cornelius Johnson was down there too.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. He had a couple drops, and maybe I don't know. I don't know exactly what the grading scale is, but the offensive linemen did not have their best day, and that's why the running game looked like it looked. They weren't able to open up holes, and I think part of that was some of the calls too. Again, there wasn't a lot of stuff out on the edge. It was a lot of stuff in between the tackles, and it wasn't working very well. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. Some people stepped up. Angelo Anthony being one of them, Cade McNamara being one of them, Eric All being one of them. But at the end of the day, it wasn't quite enough to get the win. All right, on the flip side, there's a couple, I think, obvious guesses here. But who do you think graded out highest on the defense? Who graded out highest on the defense?
Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, he seems like a staple. No.
He was number
Ojabo?
2.
David Ojabo.
David Ojabo.
I'm telling you, these two guys, I saw the stat come up. These two guys are on pace right now to set the single season Michigan sack record. They're like halfway there. They both can get there. You might have two guys this year break the single season sack record at the University of Michigan, which would be pretty impressive. I know that loss sucks, but those guys are balling out. And we knew it was going to come from Hutchinson, but Ojabo, man, love that dude. He's come on.
That's a pretty big testament to Mike McDonald. That is put your guys in the spot, let them eat. Don Brown didn't do that. He had some studs, and he didn't do that. And a lot of
Dude, could you imagine Rashawn Gary coming off the edge in this defense?
Could he pay even? Wasn't
right?
Crazy productive. I mean, he was good, first round pick, obviously, but the numbers aren't where even these two guys are right now after 7-8 games. So yeah, pretty crazy to think about that. And again, dude, I don't like calling out negative things, but this is why we saw a little bit of what we saw. Do you have a guess for who finished down towards the bottom of the list per Pro Football Focus on defense?
Defensively? Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody at the linebacker. Or Ross? Was it Ross? One of the linebackers?
It wasn't a linebacker. It was actually Chris Hinton.
Okay. I mean,
bottom of the list. And now when you start to think back to yards after contact by Kenneth Walker and busting into the middle of the line and then breaking out to the outside, Chris Hinton's lowest area of scoring in that game was tackling, just making tackles in the right position, maybe get a hand on a ball carrier and not get the lineman, not get the runner on the ground. That's a missed play. If you're a 315-pounder and you can get your hand on a 200-pound running back, you got to bring them down. And that's a testament to Kenneth Walker being, strong and sturdy and having good balance. But yeah, the interior of the defensive line was not strong. And I think both lines actually struggled quite a bit. And both of those players from both units were down towards the bottom for Pro Football Focus's grades after that one. So there you go, man. I mean, it plays out, right? I mean, when you think about what worked and what didn't, what was good, what was bad,
right?
There are the grades.
Makes sense.
Are the grades. So there you go. All right, Chris, you know what time it is.
Is it time?
It's time, dude.
Let's do it.
Get your hands warm, dude. Are you ready?
My cockles have been chilly for a minute, so. Who do you want to kick off? You want to kick off burning questions?
I'll go to the heart.
I can get us started.
All right, get us started. Get us started.
All right, this is a fast one. I mean, you can expand on it as much as you want. Sum up the Michigan State game in one word.
Is dog shit one word? I'm not sure. Is there a hyphen in there?
Oh,
because
judges.
Either. Okay, how about this? Oh, we'll change it to heartbreaker. My heart is just broken, dude. Like my heart is broken. Like I get people out on, social media saying you got to be more positive. You got to believe. I'm damaged. My heart is broken. I love this damn football team, and time again, I just get hurt, man. So heartbreaking or dog shit.
You know what my word is?
Let's hear it.
Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I spent like 3 or 4 hours putting together an article, dude, just looking back over all 7 seasons. It's like clockwork, man. The player names change a little bit. The assistant coaches change a little bit. The opponents that trigger the quotes that we hear every year change a little bit. It's been Michigan State, Ohio State, mostly. Notre Dame's in there. Iowa's in there. It's just...
You know what's weird? I was numb after the game, but I feel like the pain has like increased as time has gone on. Like I hurt more today than I felt after the game. After the game, I was numb. Today, I'm hurting a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So heartbreaking. You said Harbaugh. I think both are fair. One and the same. Some would argue. All right, Brandon. Michigan is 7-1, and they're the number 9 team in the country heading into Week 9.
Oh, please ask me. I think you're going to ask.
Are folks making too much of one loss?
No, they're not because of what I just said. This is a pattern. This is a pattern at this point. If Jim Harbaugh had 2 or 3 Big Ten titles under his belt and had bounced back from a mid-season loss like this to win out, to beat Ohio State, to win a bowl game, I would say, all right, let's see. Let's see what happens. We've seen this show before a lot of times, 6 times to be exact. Actually, the only year that didn't end in lost to Ohio State, bowl loss was year 1. That's it. Every other year has been exactly 2020. The same. Well,
pandemic.
Yeah, I guess obviously that year was crazy, but I mean the losses down the stretch, same thing. You still ended on a multi-game losing streak. That's every year, dude, except for year 1. You realize that? Every single year of Michigan's season under Jim Harbaugh ends in at least 2 losses, except for 2015. Because that's his only bowl win, and Ohio State's always the last game of the season.
Yes,
every year.
It is a long slip into the offseason if you are a Michigan football fan. That's why the offseasons feel so damn long, because you go out in like the worst way imaginable. And I think you're right. It's not this reaction that you're seeing from the fan base is not about one loss in East Lansing. This is about a track record. It's about a pattern. It's about, if you did not read Brandon's article that I put out on the Facebook page on the Winged Helmet, or you can find it on Wolverine Digest, if you didn't read it, go back through and read it. Go through 2015, go through 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Dude, read the quotes. Read what people are saying about.
That's what I was going to say.
Read what people are saying about how they're going to respond from the loss and what they're going to do moving forward. And ask yourself, at what point in time is it okay as a fan to demand results, to just expect that they come through when they're supposed to? If we haven't reached that point yet, fine, but you got to let me know when that point happens, because we got to work within the same set of parameters. This idea that Jim Harbaugh has an open-ended invitation here in Ann Arbor to take as long as he needs to get this thing figured out, I don't subscribe to that. I'll never subscribe to that. I like the fact that he's got history with the university, but I don't like enough to see the football program stay in purgatory year in and year out, 9-3, 10-2, when it doesn't amount to anything.
I wanted to point out a couple things that I never know how impactful the certain words are in the article. First of all, I quoted a lot of former players and a couple of current players in that article, and I was not trying to call any attention to what they're saying. I was trying to call attention to the fact that they have to keep saying it. I don't expect Aiden Hutchinson to say anything different after losing to Michigan State. He has to say that. They're heartbroken. They're devastated that they lost. He has to go up there and say, we just got to look at the film, man. We got to go back. We got to get better.
You know what he said before the game? What did he say before the game? What did Aiden Hutchinson say before the game? If you play at Michigan, you have to beat Michigan State.
Yeah.
Beating Michigan State is a requirement. So when you as a player and you as a team we know that that's the case. So when it doesn't happen, obviously it's a problem. You can't minimize it. This loss was a big deal, and they know it.
I also wanted to point out the fact that I can't remember the guy's name. He was at M Live. I don't remember his name. I don't remember who he is. I don't know if he was actually in the market when I was. But in 2017, after Michigan lost a tough game, was that Michigan State that year? 2017?
2017, I believe, was Michigan State.
He said in there, Michigan is he said, stop me if I sound like a broken record. Michigan loses another game of substance or something like that. That was 2017. That was 4 years ago. And he's already saying, you know, this broken record thing, Michigan losing these types of games. Okay. Fast forward to 2018. Anthony Broom, who's now at the Wolverine, was at Mason Brew at the time. He said in 2018, the Jim Harbaugh era has become indefensible.
That was 3 years ago.
Dude, what are we doing?
What, or was it 3 or 4 years ago?
3
Long
years
enough.
ago, 3 seasons ago. I mean, all those quotes are in there. You know, guys like Willie Henry, Wilton Spade. I mean, I'm going in the Wayback Machine pulling these names out, and they're saying you could have literally grabbed their quote and just played it out loud on Saturday. It's every year, man. It's a track record. It's a pattern. I'm not hating on
and you know what? And you know what?
That they have to say them.
And if you're a fan and you're not happy with that, that's perfectly okay. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. All right. So it's my turn, right?
Your turn.
Why can't Michigan score touchdowns in the red zone when they need them? What's going on?
Because they lack a killer instinct. It's the instinct that you see teams like Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, some of these, you know, these bigger programs, when they've got a rival on the ropes, they go for the knockout. They're not dinking around. They're not settling for field goals. They're trying to. Michigan does not have a killer instinct, and they haven't had it for a long damn time. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I don't see any creativity in the red zone, and I don't see a desire to force the ball in the end zone. There's the reason why Michigan lost by 4 points on Saturday. How many field goals did Jake Moody have? And
4.
How many opportunities could that have been a touchdown? There you go. You had to get that one in. You can't settle for field goals. You've got to put the ball in the end zone. You got to score touchdowns. Jim Harbaugh has an 0-2 record to Mel Tucker by a grand total of 7 points. They lost by 4 points over the weekend. They lost by 3 points in 2020. The difference is touchdown. You got to put the ball in the end zone. So I don't know what the deal is, but you know what, Brandon? I don't get paid enough to figure that out. That's what Jim Harbaugh is paid to figure out. Even though his salary was cut in half, he still gets paid $4 million to help this team score points and win games. So I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm just the idiot up in the press box wondering what happened.
Yeah, I remember when JJ rolled out and threw that touchdown pass to Andrell Anthony. I remember I looked at you and I said, is that literally like one of the first times that a receiver has caught the ball in the end zone, like from within 20, I don't know how long it was. It wasn't very long, from within 20 yards. I mean, they've scored some passing touchdowns, but they've been longer ones, and you like the big plays and you need the explosive plays. But it looked so foreign to see them inside the 10, 15, 20-yard line to drop back, move the pocket, however you get to that point, and then target a receiver already standing in the end zone. Like, they've done some corner stuff and some fade stuff in some different scenarios, not the highest percentage, but like to actually give a guy a chance to go up and make a play with his feet firmly planted in the end zone, it seriously looked foreign to me.
You know why? Because what we're used to is you line it up and you run with Haskins and Corum and you try to force your way into the end zone. And when you don't, you run Jake Moody out on the field and you settle for 3. Like, that's the MO of this team. If they can't get one from deep, they're just not interested in forcing the ball in the end zone. And I think when you're on the road against a top 10 team, it's an in-state rival, you've got to lead, you've got the ball, and you've got a chance to put the ball in the end zone. You've got to have that killer mentality where it's like, we might not get this chance again. Do it now. And you could see it. They missed out on chances, and Michigan State kept capitalizing. Michigan State kept putting the ball in the end zone. One team scored touchdowns, the other one didn't. That's the difference. You're not going to win kicking field goals in today's college football. You just won't.
Who made those field goals?
You know who it is. Our boy.
Every time Jake Moody's name is said on this podcast, I'm hitting that button. Just FYI. All right, it's your turn. Let me have it.
It is my turn.
Let me have it.
All right, Brandon.
Actually, real quick. Mike Kibbe, real fast, brought something up that I wanted to say because you were talking about it before. If you watch that Penn State-Ohio State game, there was a point in that game, I don't remember exactly what yard line they were on, but Ohio State had the ball 4th and 1 or 2. They were inside like the 20. They were at like the 18-yard line. They freaking went for it. They got the first down. It ended up in a touchdown. You couldn't pay Jim Harbaugh $1 billion to go for it on fourth down inside.
You know what was funny? When Robbins did what I thought was a fake punt, I was like, Jimmy Harbaugh faking the punt, going for it all.
No,
and it turns out he just bumbled.
spot.
Yeah, it wasn't even planned. So like there I was up there rooting for him. Like, yes, it's different. It was just a mistake. All right, Brandon, here's my third question for you. It's a simple question. We've already touched on it a little bit, but I want you to elaborate. Did Saturday prove that J.J. McCarthy isn't ready?
No, not at all. I mean, again, if the fumble truly wasn't his fault at all, then like he fumbled, he switched the ball from his right hand to his left hand while running left. That's actually what you want your quarterback to do. Get it on the outside arm, so if you do drop it, it goes out of bounds like it did. And he dropped it. Like, that's a bad play. And then they put him in later, and it looked like he fumbled again, but if it was on Blake, it was whatever. He also made a play to Andrew Anthony that showed exactly why he could and maybe should be in the game. He's mobile. He's got the live arm. He takes chances. He trusts his guys. He's got a chemistry. He's a natural leader. Absolutely not. Now, I say all that to say I saw enough out of Cade McNamara on Saturday to feel a lot better about him starting the rest of the way.
Wait, hold on. This is part B. I should have prefaced that there's two parts. Did Saturday prove that Cade McNamara is good enough to be the guy and that we can put this to bed?
Yes, I think so. I will give credit to where credit's due. I watched Devin Gardner's Monday Morning Quarterback with Sam Webb, most of it, and he broke down just how simple Michigan State's defense was all day long. They played a one high safety and played man-to-man across the board almost all day. And if anybody knows about how bad man-to-man defenses can be, and so they made
ask your boy Don Brown.
Exactly. They made Cade McNamara look really good because it wasn't a very complex defensive scheme. But that's because they didn't think he could beat him. And guess what? He didn't. He had a big day. He threw for 383 yards, but he missed just enough for them to get a win. And so I will still say that, and I've never come right out and said all year, bench Cade, put JJ in, and I still won't. I still won't say that.
So now that we're sitting here 7-1 after a loss to Michigan State, I will say at the beginning of the year, I lobbied and I wrote several articles making the case for why JJ McCarthy should have been the starting quarterback from the get. Now that we're 8 weeks into the season, I still think that was the right call. This team is 7-1. Personally speaking, I probably think they're going to lose at least one more, but probably two more. We're probably looking at a 9-3 year. I would much rather have had 9-3, 8-4, even 7-5 if it meant a whole year of JJ McCarthy being able to bring him back in 2022 with a full season under his belt. I think that would have set the table for Michigan. Think about it. A full year of JJ, a full year of guys like Andrell, like a full year of that offense to get up and running. I think that next year they would have been set up. So I still think it was a mistake, but I think for the remainder of the year, Cade did enough. He's going to be the guy.
Just need 8 years, dude. Just give him 8. Give him 8 years, dude. Let him get there. Let him get it figured out. I know, man. All right. My third question is, do you believe the words now? Spring ball, Big Ten Media Day, fall camp. This team's different, man. Something feels different. The culture's different. There's a vibe. They start 7-0. Now they lose to Michigan State. It's back to the drawing board. It's words like resolve, and we'll get better from this, and improvement. We got to watch the film, and oh, by the way, we've heard that every single year since 2015. So is this team different? Is there a vibe? Do you believe the words now?
Yes, I do. But I believe that this team is closer, more committed to winning than we have. What the hell is this popping up in our comments? I see like girls will say what you like. What is this shit?
I don't know. I'll have to try to block that on
My
YouTube.
God, we're getting like porn spam in here when I'm trying to make a point. I got to block out the porn. All right. What was the question? I've lost where I'm at.
Sex edition.
What the hell were we talking about? Can anybody else see that, or is it just me?
Well, it's on YouTube, so it's good. It's not on Facebook. So,
what was the question? What was the question?
Do you believe the words now, and do you want to go?
I do. No. Listen. I do believe it. I think that this team is different. I I believe like the leadership from guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Blake Corum, and the core group that they have, I do believe that this is a different team. The problem is they've still got the same head coach. They've got a new coaching staff. They've got new players. The roster is different. Things are changing. But at the end of the day, you've still got the same head coach. And when the same things keep happening over and over, I don't think it's fair to criticize everybody else except the one common component year in and year out. Why people won't look at that? It's like you will go out of your way to find any reason to blame anything other than the guy making millions of dollars to call the shots. And I just don't get it. It's a weird obsession. Stop
I said that on, people on Twitter were again, the 3 out of 5 in an imaginary series comment. And there were a bunch of other things about Jim Harbaugh. He's this, he's that. Who else are you going to get? He's won 70% of his games. He's got the 8th most wins since he was hired. All that stuff. I'm like, did he save some of you from a tree when you were a kid? Like, what the hell is this? What is this? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. So to answer my own question, do I believe the words? Here's what I'll say. I actually do think that there was a different vibe around there. You can see it at times. The younger coaches, younger and more diverse. We talked about that a whole bunch leading into the year. I thought there was going to be some bumps in the road, and there really wasn't through 7 games. I mean, it was pretty good. Mike McDonald's defense was stout. Sharon Moore's offensive line was stout. The running backs were clicking with Mike Hart. Safety and DB play was pretty solid. I mean, it was pretty damn good through 7 games, and it wasn't like horrible against Michigan State. It was a pretty good game back and forth, close one. Michigan State just came out on top. Unfortunately, I see the season playing out exactly like it has in the years past. So I guess that was a long answer to just say, like, I guess I believe the words, but I don't think it really is going to mean anything. Like, I do think there's a new vibe and a new energy, and I do think the players are having a better back and forth with the coaches, and I do think that they love football and they want to work better and they want to work more and they want to play better. They want to practice harder. I believe all of that. I think they've got some really good leaders as captains, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to look just like every other season's looked when it's all said and done.
I think you said it early in the show. It doesn't matter if you've got a 5-star quarterback on the field if the guy calling the shots just isn't up to par. And I think that's where we're at. We know we've had this problem for a long time. That's why Michigan fans feel like they're going crazy, because you look at recruiting rankings year after year, and Michigan is either number 1 or number 2 in the conference every single year. It's either Michigan or Ohio State at the top of the conference. You would think that Michigan would be far more dominant against every team not named Ohio State than what they are, but they're not. Right. So again, it goes back to you're pulling in recruits. You've got resources at your disposal. If it's not translating into hardware, then you're not doing your job. And if you can't get your mind there as a fan, then you're too invested into Jim Harbaugh emotionally. Care more about the football program than you do about the man coaching it.
That was a pretty strong line. Care more about the football team than you do.
Dude, I want the Wolverines to win every single damn game, but I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan. I'm a Michigan Wolverine fan.
Here's what you need. You ready for this? Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, I'll just say Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is undefeated against, you ready for the teams? Jim Harbaugh is undefeated against Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois, Nebraska, Purdue, Minnesota, and Northwestern. He's undefeated against those 7 teams, okay? He's 500 or worse against Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin. What are you doing?
Right.
You know, like, a lot of people have also said, this is another point, that Jim Harbaugh has made the program so much better than it was under Rich Rod and Brady Hoke. And, like, I don't totally disagree with that, because now he's at least beating the teams that he should beat all the time. I think there's some value in that. There are no more trip-ups against Maryland or Rutgers. There almost was. Maryland or Rutgers or Minnesota or Purdue or Northwestern. There's no trip-ups. But, like, he's not beating the teams that he needs to beat nearly enough versus I put more value on the 500 or less than I do on the undefeated against those other teams. That's
100%.
That's what it comes down to for me.
Dude, do you remember that question? You remember that question I asked you over the weekend? Like, and I think this is and I don't want to get too far up, but we knew this was going to happen during the show. Like, I want to ask this. to everybody out there who still supports Jim Harbaugh, take yourself back to the year 2014 when we knew Michigan was going to go. They were about to go into a coaching search. Pretend that there's a crystal ball in front of you, and it tells you that Jim Harbaugh is going to be available for the taking. The only caveat is it's going to show you a couple of numbers. It's going to show you what 0-5 against Ohio State, and it's going to show you what's the overall record against Ohio or Michigan State. 2-3 now, 3-4 now. So 3-4 now against Michigan State. If you could see those two records 7 years into the Harbaugh era, would you have wanted Michigan to hire Jim Harbaugh? It's 0-5 against Ohio State.
It's 100% no. So
there you go. So if your answer is no at the beginning of the season, hell no, we would not take that record. Why are you taking it now? Why are you taking it 7 years in? There isn't a Michigan fan in the world that would hit the hire Jim Harbaugh button if you knew it was going to lead to 0-5 and 3-4 and 0-8 against top 15 teams on the road and all of these other records we keep talking about. So if you wouldn't have signed on for it at the beginning, why in God's name would you sign on for it now? The only difference between people like us is along the way, we got off the bus because we started looking at the numbers and we said, you know what? This ain't very good. I was wearing khakis when Jim Harbaugh was hired. I bought the skinny block M shit. I was all on board. It just, 2015 happened, 2016 happened, 2017 happened, 2018 happened, 2019 happened, 2020 happened, and now 2021's happening. So again, dude, if you weren't okay with it at the beginning of his
that is one of the best ways to lay out the argument there is. Dude, Jim Harbaugh himself wouldn't have hired Jim Harbaugh.
He would have hired himself. Right, exactly. Would he have pressed hire? No. He would have said, I ain't touching that.
That's the best way to put it.
He wouldn't have even touched it.
At that time, you'd be 3-9 against Michigan State and Ohio State with no wins against Ohio State. Would you have taken it?
But I'm the asshole. But I'm the asshole for saying no, right? I'm the jerk.
Why are there any supporters of it now?
Because he just needs a few more years, bro.
Boom. All right. My turn. I don't even know. We're going. We're rolling.
Go with it.
What kind of effort do you think we see on Saturday? What's the game going to look like on Saturday? Night game, by the way. Night game against Indiana at home. What do you think it's going to look like?
My understanding is there was the second player-led only meeting of the year. I believe that, like I said before, I don't think anything is different in terms of like the hierarchy. Like Jim Harbaugh's still at the top, but this team is different. I don't think this team is going to come out and play uninspired football. I think this team is going to show up. I think they're going to play hard. I think they're going to come ready to play against Indiana. The question is, will the coaching staff help them get to a win or not? And once you get into these games, now we're in November. Now it's big boy football. This is when coaching mistakes will cost you a game. And we've seen it happen already the first opportunity. We'll see what happens against Indiana. I know Indiana's supposedly trash. I think we can all agree on that. Do you feel overly confident about Saturday? I don't feel overly confident, but I do think Michigan's going to win pretty easily. I mean, it's a home game. They've obviously been pretty good there. They're going to be able to run the ball, I think. Well, Indiana's got two really damn good linebackers, and their head coach is a former linebacker, and he's a nut job. So if they want to go 10 in the box and stop the run, then that's what they're going to do. What do they have to lose?
Yeah,
exactly. They're going to sell out.
They're 2-6. They're coming off of a loss, a 3-point loss against Maryland. They got boat raced by Ohio State. They did play Michigan State tough. They lost 20-15 at home against Michigan State. They got blown out by Penn State. They won just barely against Western Kentucky, got beat pretty bad by Cincinnati, got drilled by Iowa, their 2 wins are over Idaho and Western Kentucky. All right, like this is not a good team. This is probably my biggest miss of the preseason. I predicted a loss.
Well, you and everybody else.
But again, dude, Indiana beat them by 17 last year. Like it wasn't weird to say that like that's going to be a tough game for them in Ann Arbor. I expect Michigan to win, but dude, like you never know.
What the shitty part is? It doesn't matter. Do you care?
Well,
like I mean, listen, I don't want that to sound bad, but
no, it's okay.
Again, I want this show to sound like you and I are sitting on a couch talking to each other, watching TV. And to full disclosure, I don't give a shit about Indiana.
You care about this game, bro?
I don't care about Penn State. I don't care about
No,
Maryland. I care
about
listen,
Penn State. I care about Penn State.
It doesn't okay, but take yourself to that 10-2 record. Does that matter?
Well, no.
Okay, so that's why I say I don't care. Like, to me, without Ohio State now, none of the rest of it matters. To me, it's just filler. It does nothing for me. A 10-2 record with losses to Michigan State and Ohio State would be agonizing for an offseason.
Yeah, not going to be cool. Not going to be cool. I don't know. We'll see. I think Michigan's going to win, although, this is an angle you have to think about. We have not seen this team after a loss. What are they made of? Can they bounce back? What kind of resolve do they have? Jim Harbaugh talked about a lot of that stuff. And, look, man, I said Saturday was a game that they cannot lose. They have to go into that game knowing it's win or freaking die. And they lost. I don't know, man. We'll see what it looks like on Saturday.
All right, man. This is a look at. I'm just going to ask it. Has Mel Tucker already surpassed Jim Harbaugh on the Big Ten coaching hierarchy?
Yeah. Yeah. How could you argue against it? He's in year 2. He's 8-0, and he's 2-0 against him head to head. I mean, I don't think it's even like a debate.
So again, you have a second-year head coach who came into a program where a rebuild was going to be necessary. And in 2 years, he's gotten that program to the point where they are, I don't know if they're head and shoulders above Michigan, but their head's above Michigan, and their coach has now replaced Jim Harbaugh in the Big Ten coaching hierarchy. Again, you keep diving into the numbers and the things that are happening, and the story reads a certain way, but some people just don't want to read it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. He's going to be Big Ten Coach of the Year. He might be National Coach of the Year.
He might be. He might have a National Coach of the Year, Heisman Trophy winner. Might find themselves in the playoffs. I mean, everything that Michigan fans thought Jim Harbaugh was going to do at Michigan, Mel Tucker is currently doing at Michigan State with lower recruited guys. So this idea about we got to lower our academics, no, you don't, because Mel Tucker.
That's just all I don't know. That's all I can think of. That's all I can
now,
think
hey, look, I know Tucker was fortunate with transfer portal stuff, and we get that can be a deeper part of the conversation. But guys, we're not treating Jim Harbaugh here with baby gloves. Like this idea that he's protected and wrapped in bubble wrap and shielded from criticism after 7 years on the job is just ridiculous.
Google baby gloves. Not sure exactly.
Kid gloves? Kid gloves.
All right. Last one for me, dude. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, we'll do this on a more game-by-game basis, but what's Michigan's record over the final 4 games? They got 4 games left.
2-2.
Home against Indiana, on the road against Penn State, on the road against Maryland, at home against Ohio State.
2-2. I saw enough from Penn State against Ohio State last weekend to just I don't like Michigan's chances in Happy Valley. Don't feel good about it. I have the same feeling that I had going into the Michigan State game. I'm not worried about the talent on the field. I'm worried about the coaching on the sideline. And I'm worried that Michigan's going to drop Penn State, and I'm thinking they're going to drop Ohio State again. Look, if you're counting a win against Ohio State, you're doing that purely on faith and belief. I'm going to do it based in fact and reality. I'm counting that one as a loss. So I've got them going 2-2 in the stretch, 9-3 final, and a lot of questions going into the offseason.
Same. I got them at 2-2. Another year of going undefeated against Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern, and Indiana. Actually, not even Indiana. They beat them last year, so that wasn't one of the undefeated teams. And, it'll be 3-10. 3-10 against your rivals. Ohio State and Michigan State. I believe that would put them back below 500 against Penn State. Currently 3-3 against the Nittany Lions is Jim Harbaugh. I mean, if they beat Penn State in the Happy Valley, that's a good win. I'll give them credit for winning that game in that building, but I wouldn't pick that right now.
I'll give them credit for winning in that building, but I won't give Jim Harbaugh credit for 10-2 with losses to Ohio State and Michigan State.
So if they finish 9-3, they finish the season 2-3. I mean, what do you
Right, exactly.
What do you care? 2-3 with your 2 wins being over Indiana and Maryland. Sweet, dude. Sick.
Wait, and see, and Cody brings up a good point. There's some people that are going to, and I've seen this narrative already, that nobody expected Michigan to be here. Nobody expected that they were going to come out 7-0. They're performing above expectations. Well, just like we sort of had to change what we thought Washington was going to be and Wisconsin was going to be as the season went on, you had to change what you thought Michigan was going to be. Yes, Michigan is better than a lot of people anticipated they were going to be. So based on that fact alone, it's okay to expect more from a team that has proven they're a good football team. So that argument to me is like, well, they started off good. So what does that mean? So you can shit the bed in the second half of the year because you started off good? I don't understand these arguments, Brandon.
You know what's kind of funny, though? Guess where I had Michigan right now in my preseason predictions? 6-2.
6-2, yeah.
I'm like, okay, so they're a game better than that. Like, what are we doing? We giving them a trophy for that?
Yeah.
I
had them at 7-1,
7-5, and I had them at 6-2 right now.
Dude, I predicted 9-3. I predicted 9-3, and I remember at the beginning of the season, you know, it was like I was drinking Kool-Aid, and I was thinking I was being overly optimistic at 9-3, and now here I am 8 weeks into the season, and I'm thinking about 9-3, and I'm like, that sucks. That's awful. Yeah. When at the beginning of the season, I thought that was going to be great. It turns out 9-3 for this football team isn't great. 9-3 for this specific football team is a failure. You can't look at it any other way. They're too good to be losing games like they lost at Michigan State. Too talented. Too talented. I don't think we went in too hard. I don't think that was too harsh.
It's just all the stuff that's just in there. It's just all in there. It's all in there for most people. There's a like, dude, Jim Harbaugh could lose the next 10 to Michigan State and Ohio State and punt a baby on camera, and people would still be like, it's our guy.
Kids are graduating. He's doing it with class.
Yeah, it would still be, people would still be all in for him. I mean, it's clear at this point. If you're still all in for him, you're just in it for the wrong reasons. And
I do want to, I see some of these comments pop up, and there's a couple of these comments that I've seen, and I asked people on the Facebook page, give us, tell us what your thoughts are. We want to hear what's going through your mind, because we talk all the time. We know what's going through our mind, but what's going through your mind? And a lot of people they're in the same boat. It feels like Groundhog's Day. It's the same thing over and over again. But then I see other people that are like, it's almost like they might be willing to move on and entertain the idea of moving on. But then it's like, well, who are you going to get? We hear that argument all the time. Who are you going to get to replace Jim Harbaugh? Here's the deal. If you're a person asking, who are you going to get to, don't ask me. Don't ask,
throw that up.
Don't ask me. Don't ask Brandon. There are people that get paid a lot of money to figure this out. And I said it earlier. Hold on. I said it earlier. Let me just make this point. When it became announced that Mark D'Antonio was going to retire, I guarantee you not a single Michigan State fan, maybe 99% of them, nobody had Mel Tucker on their wish list. Nobody. There's a reason why Mel Tucker ended up in East Lansing and why he's doing what he's doing now. It's not up to guys like us to decide that. We don't work for the university.
But I'd be fine with doing that. Dude, I could put together a list of 50 coaches that I think could beat Maryland and Rutgers and Illinois.
Right.
I'll throw a freaking dart at a board and find a coach that can go 0 against Ohio State. Like, what the hell? What kind of challenge is that? Like,
and it is a gamble. Like, just like if you were to go with JJ, it's a gamble. If you move on from Jim Harbaugh, it is a gamble. We're not saying that whoever you bring in next is going to be a surefire win, but what you're doing now is the same thing year after year. Like, I feel like the sample size is big enough now to where you know what it is. It's 9-3 or 10-2 every year with losses to Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan State. That's just the way it is. That's what it's going to be.
Daniel, you do realize that the other alternative is they could be better. What? Like, look, man, I realize that the Rich Rod years and maybe the end of the Brady Hoke years have damaged a lot of people. But the fear of maybe being bad again is not enough to just ride out this, in my opinion. Because
this is nothing.
Because there's a chance you could find someone that could maximize everything that Michigan puts on the table and field a team that doesn't lose to Michigan State 4 out of 7 times. Like, look, Ohio State's a freaking machine. I'm not saying you've got to go find someone who's going to beat them every year, but you've got to find someone who can battle with them and be competitive and not lose by 30 on your home field.
Listen. Here's the thing.
Point.
James Franklin just lost a home game to Illinois, right? But if Jim Harbaugh had James Franklin's results to this point, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is in this spot with the fans because James Franklin has gotten his team over the hump. He's beaten Ohio State. He's gotten, he has had his team playing for big things. And that's the difference when it comes to Jim Harbaugh. I get that people want this thing to work, but there's literally nothing on the other side you can point to that says, see, there's something there. There's nothing over there.
Dwayne, this is a great point. I will say CJ Stroud has grown leaps and bounds since the beginning of this year, but Mario Cristobal took Oregon into Columbus without Kayvon Thibodeau, who's probably the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year, and beat Ohio State. You got to find a guy. You got to find the right guy who can put all his shit together and make it work. That's it. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. It happens every year. There's programs across the country doing it every year.
And I think there was somebody in the comments a while back that said it best, that given the resources that the University of Michigan has at its disposal, as a fan, I can't bring myself to lower my standard or expectation for this football program. I can't. There are programs across the country that would kill to have the types of resources that the University of Michigan has at its disposal. They can bring any type of athlete here that they want to compete for championships. That's not the issue. But if the guy calling the shots isn't good enough to get you there, then you've got to be okay with rolling the dice and possibly taking your chances with somebody else. Again, we're in purgatory. 9-3 every year is purgatory. It does nothing.
Daniel, I hate to break it to you, dude, but no, it can't. The University of Michigan and the football program and the athletic department doesn't give a shit about the fans, period.
No.
I'm sorry. It's documented. People who have been doing this a lot longer than me have lots and lots and lots of examples to prove that. They don't, man. They don't. They could take they could come out with a rule, and the person who's been at a Michigan football game this season, you're not allowed to come anymore, and next week the stadium would still be full.
Right.
They don't. They don't. It's just the way it is. So with all that said,
happy Monday. I called Brandon over the weekend. And the first thing I said to him was, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?"
Hey, bud.
Hey there, bud.
Sounds like someone has a case of the Mondays.
I just want this program to be good, man. This
Amen,
blows.
Peter.
I hate taking these.
Our podcast program.
No, this program's on point. I want the football program. I want the football program to be good, man. I just want one damn year where I can hang my hat on something. I want to, I was trick-or-treating. I wasn't trick-or-treating, my kids were, but I was walking around and I said, I just want to be hugged back by the University of Michigan once in a while. I just want to get a hug back.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
4 field goals, Jake Moody. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Keep your chins up, folks. Keep your chins up. We will see what happens this week as we continue to move through the week. Player availability tomorrow evening. Assistant coach availability on Wednesday. Night game. Didn't see that coming for Indiana, but we will be in the house. Under the lights. I think, are they going to try to do a maze out again? I feel like I've seen that thrown around a little bit already.
Do you think anybody's going to be interested in a maze out?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a harder sell than it was week 2. We'll see. Thanks for listening. We will be back on Wednesday. We're going to plant this seed real quick, by the way, right now while everybody's here. I think we're going to have an earlier show on Friday. I have a relative coming into town, and we have a guest that wants to join us that can't do it at 7. So I think it's going to be earlier in the day on Friday. We will keep you posted on that, but plant that seed and let it sprout. We will see you guys.